Everybody, please put their palms together and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And keep your palms together. Palms apart. Welcome, everybody. My name is Wayne. I'm a Dharma Bum. I've been coming here for 8 years. I've been teaching Buddhism and meditation in the prison system for the last 7 years. I've been involved in mindfulness meditation for many years prior to that. So welcome, anybody. Anybody's new here? Anybody here for the first time? And what brings you here?
Just want to have more regular practice.
Wonderful, good. Well, welcome. So tonight we're going to do a loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness, or Metta in the Pali language, is one of 4 foundational practices taught by the Buddha. And they include loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Sometimes referred to as the Brahma-viharas, and sometimes referred to as the divine abode. Loving kindness is the one we're going to do tonight, which is the most commonly done meditation. It's meant to cultivate samadhi, which is one-pointed concentration and awareness through which the powers of these evoked qualities occur, transfiguring the heart. Loving kindness meditation is also a very effective antidote against ferocious rage, anger, that sometimes is too strong to approach by direct observation. And sometimes loving kindness can help with that too. So those are 2 of the reasons that we practice Metta. So in an erect and dignified posture, hands can be on your lap, eyes can be either completely closed or unfocused in front of you. And just bring your awareness to the sensation of the breath. Wherever it's most vivid, either in the lower abdomen, as the abdominal wall expands on the in-breath, then falls back on the out-breath. In the chest, as the chest wall expands on the in-breath, then falls back on the out-breath. Or even under the nostrils as the cooler air comes in and the warmer air comes out. Wherever you notice the breath sensations the strongest, just focus on that area. Each in-breath, a new beginning. Each out-breath, a complete letting go of the past. Just sitting and breathing. Creating a stable platform in the present moment. If it feels right to you, focus the sensations of the breath around the area of the heart. Feeling the warmth of the breath enveloping the heart. And breathing into that area. And now picture in your mind's eye someone who loves you or loved you. Feeling the selfless warmth of their love for you, just as you are and perhaps always have been. Bathing in their love for you. And if you find it difficult to imagine somebody loving you in that way, just imagine somebody loving you in that way. And it's just as powerful and just as helpful. Where you're simultaneously both the mother and the child. Feeling the selfless love that you accord yourself for who you are right now. And sometimes it's helpful to whisper to yourself or hear these phrases whispered to you by the wind, by the universe. May I be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May I be happy and contented. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may I have ease of well-being. And repeating the phrases over and over in your mind, not like a mantra, but with intention, with feeling. May I be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May I be happy and contented. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may I have ease of well-being far from the disease that often lies beneath our psyche. May I be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May I be happy and contented. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may I have ease of well-being. And now, if it feels comfortable, trying to extend the limitless field of loving kindness beyond yourself. Picturing in your mind's eye someone who you are close to, a child, a close friend, a cherished neighbor, a partner. And extending the field of loving kindness out towards them. May he, she, or they be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May he, she, or they be happy and contented. May he, she, or they be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may he, she, or they have ease of well-being. And if it feels right to you, feels comfortable to you, expanding this limitless field of loving kindness to people that you don't know or know casually. Maybe the person who waits on you at your favorite restaurant, the cashier, someone you've seen at work but don't know very well. Picturing them in your mind's eye. And wishing them the same things that we all want. May he, she, or they be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May he, she, or they be happy and contented. May he, she, or they be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may he, she, or they have ease of well-being. And now, if it feels right, extending the limitless field of compassion to somebody who may have been problematic in your life. Someone you feel may have harmed you. And even if just for a moment, trying to extend loving kindness and compassion towards them, realizing that they too are human. This doesn't mean that you're necessarily being asked to forgive them, but just acknowledging that they too want to be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. They too wish to be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. They too wish to be happy and contented. They too wish to have ease of well-being. If you get lost, it feels difficult, you can always return to offering loving kindness to yourself or to a loved one. And extending the field of loving kindness one more time to all beings in all directions, all beings who are suffering, all beings who may not be safe. All beings who may be sick. May he, she, or they be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May all beings in all directions be happy and contented. May all beings in all directions be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may all beings in all directions have ease of well-being. Until you hear the sound of the bells, continue to send the limitless field of compassion out from your heart to the hearts of all sentient beings, near and far. When you slowly open your eyes, slowly start to move. See if you can set an intention to bring loving kindness into other aspects of your day as you go through the various activities of your life. Thank you, everybody. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up to questions, loving kindness, meditation in general, Buddhist practice, whatever's on people's minds at this point. Yes, thank you.
I noticed that when it comes to loving kindness meditation, I have a difficult time like redirecting the attention to an object. Like when it comes to the breath, like it's a lot easier to redirect the attention to the breath. But when it comes to loving kindness, it seems more like a vague idea or concept. So what do you?
Yeah, I think that's probably natural. I find that, let's kind of take it through stages. So let's talk about offering loving kindness to ourselves. That's often a very difficult thing for a lot of people. And creating an image sometimes can help. And one of the things that I found particularly helpful is creating an image of yourself as a child. It's sometimes difficult for us to offer loving kindness, vaguely or generally to ourselves. But if we picture ourselves as a child, as a young child, and create that image in our mind, it's sometimes a little bit easier to start at that point. One of the things that is also helpful is that in loving kindness, I think it's sometimes important to maybe direct that love and kindness and compassion to a quality in yourself that you may or may not feel comfortable with. I mean, I've always kind of been pretty shy. And so, sometimes I'll focus on that shy me or that shy person and just say, okay, let's offer some warmth and kindness to that particular aspect. So picking up, using imagery to do it for yourself. One of the things that I know that I do, I assume you guys never do, is judge other people. I was sitting in the temple, which I hate to admit, but it wasn't that long ago, and I would sit there and I'd watch these people come in. And I'd say, okay, that person, you form an impression the way they're dressed, the way they carry themselves, how old they are, how young they are. And so I decided, well, how about if rather than doing that, every time I see somebody come in, I say, I wish them well. So then you're getting practice at wishing people well in real life. So rather than saying, he's this type of a person, I'll bet she's that type of a person, or this is somebody that I could like, or this is not somebody, just without judging, just say, may you be happy and content. So those are ways, but it requires practice. Some degree of imagery, and we start often with somebody that we feel close to. So sometimes it's easier to offer that to somebody we feel close to. Does that help?
That's helpful. Thank you.
And it's the thing with loving kindness is it's the feeling. It's that feeling of love, that feeling of warmth. That's what you're looking for. And just tiny tastes of it here and there are really, really powerful. I come from a medical scientific background, and I remember reading these books about how these monks, they have the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex of these monks who practice loving kindness is just massive. You do the functional MRIs, and all of a sudden you look at at this one place of the brain that's responsible for that loving kindness, and it just grows. And so the more we practice, the more these circuits get used and develop. In medical terms, we use the term neuroplasticity, and the brain is much more malleable. We used to think, well, it only grows until you're like 20 years old. But the circuits are constantly changing and reorganizing and developing. And so just practice and practice and practice. So other thoughts, comments, loving kindness, meditation.
I think it's some tension when it's to all beings, because I think about predator and prey, or crow and a worm, or a bird and a worm, and so I'm giving them both loving kindness. One is going to starve if the worm is safe and protected, and then so I don't know, my brain just kind of like trying to reconcile the duality of that.
It is absolutely difficult. You kind of have to go back to evolutionary psychology and and the natural order of things, and a certain degree of predator and prey is inherent in that. I think we all wish that the sentient being of the worm was happy as long as he could be happy. But yeah, I can see that, and it's difficult and sometimes overwhelming in a world where there is so much suffering. And I truly believe in like the butterfly effect of the whole matrix of the universe. If you could just offer a little bit of loving kindness, you change that matrix ever so subtly. Other thoughts and other loving kindness. Do most people have difficulty offering loving kindness to yourself, or is it easier to offer it to others, or is it easier to offer it to yourself?
I think for me it's easier to offer to other people than myself. And then I also notice that sometimes it's difficult to just like produce the feeling of loving kindness sometimes in general.
Yeah.
And then if the judging mind is there, it's like, why can't you do this? Like, why can't you create this feeling?
Right. And all those are normal and valid, but that's your present moment, and in Zen practice you have to accept that's where your mind is right now. But it's all about practice and repetition. I equate meditation very much like exercise, and we can read books and we can understand how to exercise, but it doesn't do us a lot of good. We need that understanding. We need to know how to do things right, but unless we practice it, and just like exercise, I've noticed that when my meditation practice falls off, I tend to be a little a little more irritable, get a little angrier, a little bit easier. And so it tends to be, like exercise, it tends to be reinforcing. But you gotta kind of keep doing it. Yes?
When you talked about loving kindness toward yourself, I kind of had a realization probably a while ago, but it was basically that we are conditioned somehow to not think of ourselves as supposed to be giving ourselves loving kindness, and yet there's so much, you would think nothing of someone, buying themselves a nice pair of shoes or getting a manicure or, buying a meal for themselves that they like. And I guess I just started to think about like stripping away the idea of an external pleasure, an external tool towards love, towards a more sort of baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not to say that I don't still like to buy a nice pair of shoes, but just that it helped me reframe how to self-love in this culture, basically.
Yeah. I mean, we are, what was it, Madonna who said, we're all material girls or material people, and that's reinforced over and over and over and again in our society. So it's often said in Buddhism that if you understand the Four Noble Truths, you understand Buddhism. So I'm sure you've all heard the Four Noble Truths. And they go effect, cause, effect, cause. And so the first noble truth is the truth of suffering, okay? And all humans, are destined to suffer. And if you go again back to evolutionary psychologists will tell us that the brain has a negativity bias, first of all, and then also that our brain, so let's say, we're out on the Serengeti and we kill something and we eat and we just stay satisfied. We're not going to survive very long. So there's that inherent continued drive for wanting more and more and more, and so we suffer. Second noble truth is the causes of suffering, which are greed, anger or aversion, and ignorance or delusion. And we are, the third noble truth is that there is a way out. Nirvana is the way out, and the fourth, which is the cause, is the path. So we suffer because we have this inherent need for things. And I think you mentioned a lot of those things. The problem with those things in Buddhist teaching is that they're unreliable and impermanent. So we want to get the next meal, we want to get the next nice thing, and we want to keep piling positive things upon positive things. And so people keep living their life, not realizing that once you get that positive thing, there's a thing called adaptive anhedonia, which means that we really get used to that thing. So, we got that nice little Volkswagen car, and we're really happy with it for a while. But then there's a nice shiny Mustang, and so we have that innate wanting for more and more and more, and that served us well. Through 95% of human existence, we were hunter-gatherers, and that worked pretty well. It does not work in this society where everybody's telling you have to have this, you got to have that, you have to be this way, you have to look this way. And then once you have that or look that way, then you're only happy for a short period of time because you want the next thing. So Buddhism teaches us that the biggest cause of our suffering is clinging to things that are impermanent and unreliable and aren't going to give us lasting happiness or satisfaction. We think they will, but they really don't. There are perfect examples of people who have billions and billions and billions of dollars and really have everything, and they don't seem very happy to me, most of them. You know, they're constantly chasing the next thing, but that's unreliable and impermanent, and it's a setup to continue suffering. So, you know, I often find that always going back to those Four Noble Truths. You know, when the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree, you know, he figured out two things, and one was paticca or dependent origination. That was the first thing he figured out and caused the enlightenment. But he felt that was going to be a little bit tough to teach. And then the second thing was the Four Noble Truths. So that's what he, you know, started teaching. And so this, you know, whole practice is to figure out why we're suffering. Are we suffering because of our greed, because we want this and we want that, but it's not reliable? Are we suffering from anger or aversion? And that's where loving kindness comes in. Okay, because loving kindness is the antidote to aversion and anger. So everybody knows who that is behind us here. So that's Guanyin, or Avalokitesvara, or Kannan, depending on whether it's Chinese, Tibetan, or Japanese. And he, she, or they, because in Buddhism often these bodhisattvas can be male, female, or neither male nor female. Hermaphrodite, I guess is the correct word for it. But she hears the world's cries and pours out compassion to all beings in all direction. And so that's why she, he, or they is in the center of our temple. But the compassion and wisdom are the two wings of Buddhism. You need compassion because that decreases your suffering. But you also need the wisdom to know how to apply that. So other thoughts? Meditation, Buddhist practice. Yes, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Can you explain dependent origination?
Okay, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because it has multiple layers. But from kind of a practical standpoint, it means that none of us has an independent existence. We are all dependent upon everybody else and everything else. Thich Nhat Hanh often would refer to it as interbeing. We all interbeing, or we inter-are. So, you know, we have, again, this inherent bias that, you know, we are separate, unique, unchanging people that are not dependent on other people. So one exercise is, I would sit down and I'd have my cereal in the morning and put some fruit and nuts on it and say, okay, how many people did it take for me to get that cereal? Okay, and it required sunlight and soil and water and all these people. The other part of dependent origination, everything is interbeing, but also nothing is created everything is created from something else. Okay, it's very much like Einstein's, matter cannot be created or destroyed. Energy and matter can be interconverted, but they can't be created or destroyed. Everything comes from something else. And what it comes from, in Buddhist terms, are causes and conditions. So the example that's most commonly given is a seed would be the cause. And under the right conditions, water, nutrients, sunlight, under those conditions, something sprouts. If you have a apple seed, you're not going to get mangoes. So you have to have the correct seed and you have to have the correct conditions. And so dependent origination centers around interdependence of all things and everything coming from something else. In Buddhist cosmology, there's really not a beginning or an end, because everything has to come from something, and nothing can be destroyed. It can just be changed. And it has lots and lots of implications in terms of, how we live our lives, our karma, and in certain, more religious Buddhist cosmology, reincarnation, and they all kind of depend on causes and conditions. That's my best shot at it at this point. It's a very difficult concept. Anybody else have any thoughts on dependent origination? So we still have time for a couple more questions. Does everybody know about the triple gem? Okay, so when I first came here, I said, I take refuge in the Buddha. So, when I teach at the prison, we have a little statue of the Buddha. And anybody who's new, I give them a little disclaimer. I said, okay, this Buddha guy, he was a pretty smart guy. In my mind, probably the greatest psychologist that ever lived. He really understood human nature and human suffering greater, I think, than anybody. That includes Jung and Freud, who I also studied. But he was a really, really smart guy. But he died 2,500 years ago. He's not going to help us now. He's not a god, because often, we'll have the Buddha statue and we'll substitute it for, a Christian god, or, Islam or another god. He's not. He's just a smart guy. And so the first part of it is I take refuge in the Buddha. So what would refuge be? We're not worshiping. We're taking comfort. We're taking safety and protection in the idea that this guy, he was just a guy, was able to relieve his suffering. So in my mind, when I'm doing my meditation, I say I take refuge in the Buddha, finding comfort and safety and protection in the enlightened being within me, knowing that I have the ability to suffer less and lead a peaceful and happy life. So that's the first part of the triple gem. And again, it's acknowledging the Buddha nature within each and every person. There are seeds of compassion. There are seeds of kindness. And when we do this meditation, we water those seeds so they grow. The second part of the triple gem is I take refuge in the Dharma. So people know what the Dharma is? Yes. So the Dharma can be little d Dharma, which would be the teachings of the Buddha. Big D Dharma is sometimes referred to as how things are. Impermanence. Karma, which is basically the law of action and cause and effect. So these are truths. This is just basically the way this universe is constructed. So I take refuge in the Dharma, knowing that I have the ability to understand the way things are and suffer less. So that's the second part of the triple gem. And the third part would be I take refuge in the Sangha. Anybody want to have a shot at Sangha?
It's a spiritual community.
Yeah, spiritual community. It was initially, the Buddha and his disciples were over the wall there, and then expanded, to the nuns and the monks, and now it's kind of expanded generally to people who sit and practice and meditate. And so I would say I take refuge in the Sangha, finding comfort, safety, and protection in the community that cares for me on this journey, knowing that people are important on this path. So, we hear, you hear about a lot of different types of Buddhism. There are Theravada Buddhists, there are, Mahayana or Tibetan Buddhists. There's lots of different sects. There's Zen Buddhism. But they all, if you go to any Buddhist temple, they will all take refuge in the triple gem. It's kind of one of the universal things that kind of permeate through all of Buddhism. The triple gem, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, those are things that are pretty universal. So other questions? I think we got a few more minutes. Yes, sir.
Can you say a little more about your work in the prisons and the kind of changes and impact you've seen with the prisoners you work with?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was actually one of the reasons that I joined the temple here 8 years ago is that I noticed that they had a prison outreach. And so I go to the Metropolitan Correctional Center, which is the federal facility downtown. And every week lead a group of whoever shows up, between 2 and as many as 20 people. And we do a meditation teaching. We talk a little bit about the basic fundamentals of Buddhism, and then we try. I try to address some of the specific questions and concerns and difficulties that people are having. I focus a lot on anger. I focus a lot on loving kindness and compassion as an antidote to anger. One of the things that was really interesting, it was last week or the week before, there was a guy who was particularly interested, and he would come in and ask good questions, and he was going to be leaving and going out into the community, as most of them are. And I kind of went around the room and said, What did you learn? What did you learn? And he looked at me and he said, it all starts with a thought. And really, what an insight, because it really does. It all starts as a thought. And that's what we try to do with meditation, is try to recognize these thoughts when they come up before they kind of snowball all the way down. Like, I don't like the way that guy looks. I think he might be this way. I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do this. And when it's snowballed all the way down the line, then, then bad things happen. And so, trying to, get some of these guys more aware of their thoughts when the thoughts first arise, and recognize, well, that's just a thought. It's just a cloud going by. I don't have to do anything about it. In Buddhist terms, the thought can come by. You don't have to invite it in for tea. And so focusing, we do a lot of meditations on watching thoughts come and go, and noticing the impermanent nature of thoughts, and realizing that, again, it's not me, it's just something that I'm thinking. And I don't know about you guys, but man, some of the thoughts that come up in my, they're just kind of crazy. They just kind of, it's almost like random number generators, some of these thoughts. Some of them are related to something that happened recently, and some of them just come out of the blue. So we do a lot, we do a lot of focusing on anger, and we do a lot of focusing on thoughts, and trying to recognize them early. And when they occur, we have the, cool RAIN acronym, recognize, investigate, acknowledge, non-attachment, or non-identification. And there's one guy who, he was sitting in the back of the room. He wasn't. I don't even know if he was really paying attention. And he said, yeah, there was this guy, and he really pissed me off, and I really wanted to beat the what out of him. But I took a couple of breaths, and it passed. And we talk about, interactions with other inmates. We talk about interactions with the staff, and the fact that, this guard may be, picking on you and causing all sorts of problems, but you don't know what that guy's going through. You don't know what happened in his life earlier on. Maybe his wife is sick. Maybe, his kid ran away. We don't really know. And trying to depersonalize some of those things. So those are some of the things that I'm working on. Thanks. So I think we're pretty much out of time. I do appreciate people's questions, and I appreciate your questions. It's always kind of nice to do that. So we'll end in palms together. May the benefits of what we've learned here be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be free from suffering. And we offer compassion to Mark in his time of suffering. We have a few announcements and a disclaimer here. Thank you.
It's always such a long walk. Hello, everyone. I'm tonight's host, Anna. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show